Hello, this is Thomas, K4SWL, and you're listening to Ed, W4EMB on the CW Corner podcast.
Cold weather activations. Are you going portable? What do you do when the weather gets cold? And I mean just really cold. Are you a vehicle portable at that point? Or do you go ahead and brave the elements and go sit at a picnic table, or better yet, even hike that trail and go sit somewhere along the trail and activate? Well, when I was younger, maybe, but as I've gotten older and retired from my previous occupation, I made a few promises to myself. No more cold, wet, and hungry. However, I've not lived up to that. I've done a few things doing the old remember what I used to coulds, and end up spending a few chilly nights out in the woods. So here at this time for me, I actually went out and activated Land Between the Lakes yesterday. I had an appointment in Dover, Tennessee. So I went to the South Check-In Station. I was thinking about heading to Gatlin Point because there's a spot out there that overlooks the water there at the boat ramp, and it's the closest turnoff, I guess you could say, after the South check-in station. But as I was approaching the South check-in station, there was one of those great big orange lighted signs that they can pull. That's a trailer that gives you up-to-date information, and it plainly said, "Turn around, roads not plowed." Well, where it was sitting there wasn't really a spot to turn around. I mean, you're kind of on the main road. The state had plowed the road up to Land Between the Lakes, but didn't go into Land Between the Lakes. So I went ahead and I went past the sign, headed towards the South check-in station, which is within view of the sign, and because that's like the only turnoff that you could turn around. So I turned into the parking lot, and to my surprise, my rear end of my vehicle started to pass me. It was instantly clear that that parking lot wasn't just snow. It was absolute ice. It was probably 2.5 inches thick of just ice, and it was like a hockey rink. Very, very just slick ice. Well, I was able to just drive, normally without, fast acceleration. All I did was just let my foot off the gas, and I went over and I parked in the parking lot. I didn't have to worry about anybody else parking there, so I actually parked a long ways across about 2 or 3 parking spaces, putting my door, my left driver's door, towards the sidewalk. And opened the door, got out, and I had eyed a spot to the side there in the grass. Well, it was snow there, where I was going to put up my antenna. The moment my foot landed on the ground, I realized this is very slick. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I went ahead and got out of the vehicle, made it around to the back. I didn't even walk. I just kind of slid my feet. Got out my antenna, slid my feet, and got over to the sidewalk, which is about a 3-inch step up, but everything was coated in ice. And you take it for granted just being able to lift your foot 3 inches and lean forward, but having your toes push off, it was an experience. I had to tread carefully, but I made it to I'll call it grass and snow, but the snow actually cracked beneath my feet just like ice did or would. Well, I set up the Chelegans MC750 on the tripod on top of the snowy ice, laid out my radials, put out my coax, and got in my vehicle, and I used the KX3, and I also used the N0SA M5. Thank you to Doug, KD7DUG. You can find him on YouTube. And I sat there and I activated. I made about 26 QSOs or so. And then my feet started to get cold sitting there in the vehicle. So I didn't let it run. I sat there with the vehicle off. Anyway, and again, that promise, don't get cold, wet, or hungry, right? So I went ahead and got out of the vehicle, went over and started to First thing I would do with the antenna is I always retract the telescopic whip and just leave it sitting there on the tripod as is. Then I unplug all 4 radials. Then I grab one radial at a time, draping the connector between my index finger and middle finger. I then bring the wire around my palm and do the thumb pinky figure 8 there. And my hand was getting wet, and I couldn't figure out, it's 27 degrees. Why is it wet? Cold, yes, but wet? And I thought to myself, would these radials have heated the icy snow? And as I picked up each of the other radials, I realized they had actually slightly melted into the snow and ice. And I just thought that was pretty remarkable. I didn't realize that little 5-watt QRP operating off that vertical there, that those radials got that warm. Maybe it was because they were in the vehicle. I don't know, but they didn't completely sink, but I could definitely see spots where the line had melted into the ice and snow on all 4 radials. Well, anyway, we went ahead and recovered. I recovered my radials, the antenna, got it all back in the vehicle. My farthest QSO was to Washington State. And then, of course, the eastern seaboard, anything from Texas to New York, and that kind of angle is where I primarily get most of my contacts while I'm out there portable, which makes sense when you think about population density. My signal report from Washington State wasn't the strongest, 449 or 439, something like this, whereas some of my signals into, say, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, they were giving me 5.9 pluses. I say plus because my friend from New Jersey, Stuart, KM3STU, a Long Island CW Club instructor, he had sent me a text and told me that the signal was just booming into New Jersey. So it's nice to get a good signal report. I was wondering if the snow and ice would act as a reflector, or I don't know. I don't know how that would act. But anyway, so we did a cold weather activation, sitting there in the vehicle in the parking lot of the South Check-In Station at Land Between the Lakes National Recreation Area. All right, well, hey, I'm Ed, W4EMB. Just wanted to share yesterday's story of my POTA outing and let you know that even when it's cold, if you have the means and you can get to your park and it's not all closed, maybe you can perform an activation. Of course, safety in mind, safety first, right? We don't want to slip and fall and bust a hip or something there. Always maintain safety when you're out there doing your activations. Well, I'm Ed, W4EMB, and you can catch me at W4EMB on YouTube as well. Got to get some videos made. This cold weather and chores here on the house has really messed up my schedule, but we'll get in there. All right, everybody, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. 72 for now. If you're QRP like you should be. Hi.